Every day, men carrying the weight of expectation to provide, protect, and perform over and above, often in silence. Hello, this is Stephanie Anderson, and welcome to the Main Health Show. Today, we're breaking that silence with a powerful conversation about mental health and what it really means to be strong. Life's pressures don't skip anyone, but too often, men are told to push through without pause. Our guest today is Mr. Sinclair Ceasar III, and he is here to challenge that mindset and help us refine what mental wellness looks like for men. Today's guest is someone who has dedicated his life to helping men and leaders prioritize mental health in meaningful ways. Sinclair Ceasar III is the CEO of Sinclarity Consulting and the founder of Healing Fathers, where he works to create psychologically safe workplaces and mentor leaders to lead with both strength and empathy. A certified mental health first aid instructor and TEDx speaker, Sinclair has spent over a decade speaking at organizations and companies such as Microsoft, LinkedIn, Toyota, and Whataburger, sharing strategies that make real impact. He's also the founder of the annual Fall Workplace Mental Health Summit in San Antonio. And his expertise has been featured in outlets like BuzzFeed, Essence Magazine, and the London Times. With a Master of Science in Leadership and a Bachelor of Communication, Sinclair combines deep knowledge, practical tools, and a passion for people to help leaders and men navigate the pressures of life and work. Welcome, Sinclair, to the Main Health Show.
It's a pleasure being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. You know, I will just share with the audience that last year is when you became on my radar. I was volunteering at TEDx San Antonio, and I saw this man walk on stage, that TEDx stage, and just talk about something that a lot of people don't, which is mental health for men. Mm-hmm. And so it's taken a little while, but I wanted this opportunity. So thank you. And let's have that conversation.
Let's do it. Let's jump in.
So I know one time you said that you almost lost everything during a mental health crisis. Can you kind of share what that was and how you found yourself again?
Yeah, so it was pretty much an unraveling that came out of nowhere. Okay. So it was like a perfect storm. Past childhood trauma, current trauma. Had a job where I was doing crisis management at 3 a.m. in the morning, then going back to work, 9 o'clock. My wife was pregnant for our now 6.5-year-old child. Okay. And we also have a one-year-old child. And it was just so many pressures coming from all ways. And I didn't know I had this diagnosis that I'll talk about in a moment. Okay. And so there are some early signs that started to devolve into something worse. And so I started to lose sleep. Mm-hmm. I was running on fumes like 2 hours a night, which was praised as an entrepreneur, but something was clearly wrong. Mm-hmm. I say that I kind of was having a Dr. Jekyll and Dr. Hyde moment, where one moment I was positive, the next moment I was snapping on people. I was walking away from arguments, not realizing that I had started them. My appearance started to change. I started to dress differently, show up late to things, and just become a shadow side of myself. And this ended up happening for 4 months. And eventually I lost my job, spent a lot of our money, our nest egg, and it was very devastating. And then I became a father the next year and was diagnosed with bipolar 1 disorder. Okay. And so you can imagine waking up one day and going to your psychiatrist and them saying, yeah, you have this diagnosis, and going, what? Yeah. And so it was a very devastating time. It really impacted my family. By the grace of God, we are still here. Yes. It is almost a decade later. Yeah. But, I did almost lose everything, but I was able to keep what mattered most, and it's been a lot of hard work since then to now. Yeah.
But your story is so impactful. And I'm so thankful for it. And it was important for me to have you here because, first of all, there's so many different things that we put on men's shoulders.
Yes.
You know, our expectations of men, that you're made of steel and you can take whatever. But then also, your talk helped, and you can kind of elaborate on where you want to, but also, how have you found that it's being received? Because I know you talk to a lot of corporations and leaders,
Yes.
but in our community, you know, a lot of times in the Black community, people don't really talk about mental health.
Yes.
And it really is a topic that needs to be addressed.
Absolutely.
So kind of share what your experience has been and your viewpoint on what you've experienced and how it's been received.
Yeah, so for me, I've learned that when you share your story, you help others to unlearn shame. So I come in the room saying, let me invite everyone to the table.
Yeah.
Here's what happened to me. See if you can find yourself somewhere in my story.
Yes.
Right? Because typically when we talk about mental health, we're talking about somebody that's outside. Those people, or that cousin that doesn't show up to the holiday, or my mom who wasn't always there, or my dad who didn't really show up unless he was angry. But I make it a personal thing.
Yes.
So the first thing I always do is something called the mental health check-in.
Okay.
So I ask people, how are you doing on a scale of 0 to 5? 0 is I'm struggling, or maybe somebody's in crisis.
Okay.
And 5 is I'm thriving, or as young folks would say, I'm ready to slay.
Okay.
And I give them a moment to just check in with themselves. I say, okay, now we're all going to check in together. So I'll give my number like, oh, I'm a 3.5.
Okay.
Someone else might be a 4. Inevitably, someone in the room is like a 1.
Okay.
And I say, everyone just say thank you for sharing.
Yes.
Everyone says thank you for sharing. And then I go into deeper of what those numbers might mean, maybe what your number has been over the past month, 2 months, and then the numbers start to shift.
Yes.
And so that immediately brings everyone to the conversation. I go, did we talk about diagnosis just now? No. Did we talk about medication or hospitalization? No. What did we talk about? Just how I'm doing. I go, that right there is the first M of mental health. Mental
Yes.
health is 3 M's. It's your mental health, your state of well-being. Did you have coffee today?
Okay.
Did you go for a walk? Did you watch this wonderful show?
Yeah.
And then mental health challenge is the second M.
Okay.
That's grief, that's loneliness, that's crankiness, that's you in traffic, right? That's your mental health challenge.
Yes.
Your brain's attached to your body, things happen to your brain are affecting your body. And then the third one is a mental health crisis or illness.
Okay.
And not everyone resonates with that, but we all know somebody who's gone through something,
Yes.
right? And so I say, where do you find yourself on that continuum?
Yeah.
And so no matter what, we all come to the conversation on mental health in some way, shape, or form. It's just been presented to us in childhood or through TV in a different way.
Yeah.
So I really break that conversation down to something that we can have one-on-one or with the group, and I call it the easiest conversation on mental health ever. So now it's not me trying to teach you or tell you something.
Yeah.
It's just we're revealing what's always been there, like you do, in a very
Yes.
disarming, relational way.
Yeah. Yeah. Just the experience. And it starts with a conversation because the stigma is so heavy. But just asking, where are you today?
That's it.
That is it.
That's it.
But it's so powerful. And it starts people to talk about things that because I think a lot of times people wear armor. They wear, transparency is not always what's in, right?
Absolutely.
So they're wearing a mask because they're taught to protect themselves, not wanting to be seen different. But the truth of the matter is, if people were to really have the conversation, they would see where people are more in common than they are indifferent.
100%.
Yeah.
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 I just had a conversation at a church this past weekend.
Okay.
And I was invited to talk to the congregation about mental health because now they have a committee called their mental health ministry.
Wow.
I said, you guys are doing really great things.
Yes.
It's a black and brown community. Some other races are represented there. But people showed up on a Saturday. They self-selected to come to this.
Yes.
And so you can imagine the place where people go, can we talk about mental health? And I say, a lot of you have a lot of stigma around mental health. Let's just name it. What are some
Yes.
things you think about when you hear
Yes.
the term mental health? Then I said, what are some things you've been told in church when you bring up your mental health? And they say, oh, pray it away, or take, take some time with the pastor, or like, that's not real, get rid of that spirit.
Yeah.
And I say, okay, so how can we have space for two things being true? If your gas tank is full and you need an oil check, can two things be true? Yes. You can get far, but at some point you're going to break down.
Yes.
So I can still need a therapist and also need prayer.
All right.
And so right there we had this connection of here's how the church can be beneficial. And also the church has so many people coming to them that are hurting. It's good for us to know the language in which to give them. We're not trying to solve all their problems or heal everything, but we can be good referral sources. We can have a conversation. We can build empathy.
Yes.
So the group thanked me and they said, thank you so much for giving us a better understanding of what's happening in our church, because people are starting to share
Yes.
their broken places.
Wow. That is huge because a lot of times people will start to judge your salvation if you talk about you need some help with your mental health.
Yes.
You're not praying hard enough or you're not believing, but it is a real thing. So I don't know what church that was, but what it does is encourage me that the conversation is happening just outside of leadership.
Absolutely.
And boardrooms, because businesses have acknowledged a little while back that people need help.
Yes.
But so I think it is, and with your help, matriculating and going into different spaces, and
Yes.
that is great that an actual church actually had you to come in to talk about it. And I think since COVID, it seems like the buzzword, and it's been needing to be for a while, has been check on your strong friend.
Yes.
Because a lot of times it's
Yes.
the person who everybody leans on that really tank is half empty and they need an oil change.
100%. And probably some new tires.
And probably rotated too.
For being honest, yeah.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
like it, and I love that analogy because then people are like, well, yeah, that can be true. You
Yes.
can have this, but still this can happen too.
100%.
As I had shared that I saw you on the stage as a TEDx speaker, and you shared from your heart. And as much as you want to share here, please do. But I know that a TEDx speaker kind of has to be someone who could spin a tale and tell their story. How do you balance that vulnerability
Yeah. Yeah.
with helping people?
So everything I am and who I am is because of something that I've learned, someone that's mentored me, some type of training that I've done, revelations, right? And just God leading me in my life.
Yeah.
And so one training I took was called In Our Own Voice.
Yeah.
And that's through the National Alliance on Mental Illness. So we learn how to tell our story in 3 parts. Is what happened, what helped, and what's next. And if you notice that the what helped and what's next are both hopeful and resilient based. But the what happened is typically where people get stuck.
Yeah.
So I tell people just enough to know what my turning point was. What was my breakdown point? Because I want you to know what the breakthrough was on the other side.
Yes.
So for some people it's loss of a pet, loss of a person, loss of a job.
Yes.
Some people it's marriage. Some people have different turning points in their life where they didn't feel like they were at 100%. So I just say simply, I had a mental health crisis and it took me out of a job for 1.5 years. People immediately know
Yeah.
what that means.
Yeah.
And so I think it's more important for us to talk about the feelings around that time.
Yeah.
Who was there?
Yeah.
What were you doing? One day I woke up on a dusty blue couch in Baltimore, Maryland, and I felt completely hopeless. My wife passed me a magazine called Bipolar Hope Magazine and said, I really encourage you to read this when you feel up to it. Because she had done so much research around bipolar disorder because she didn't know what to do at that time. There wasn't much out there.
Yeah.
So I read this magazine, I see a story of a man who I resonate with, and it's a black man who's in the military, and he says, I lost everything. And my life is not the same, and I'm writing articles for pennies on the dollar. I can't support my family, but I'm still here.
Yes.
And how much did that take the weight off my chest on that dusty blue couch and make me feel like I could just get up to the next day because at least I'm still here?
Yes.
Someone once said, it's best to talk from your scars and not your wounds.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You need rooms where you can talk about your wounds, right?
Yes.
But I don't want to get on the stage or be on the
Yes.
book or on the show
While
and
you're
say,
still
here are my
bleeding.
wounds, but I'm still healing in those places.
Yes.
Right? So I'm constantly curating my story. What happened? What helped? And then what's
Yes.
next? And my what's next has been continuing to share my story, but also teach others how to share their story. Because when we're all mental health storytellers, we can do things like this where we're inspiring people, where we can say, this was that brokenness, and here's how I was able to get that support. But I want you to know that this is real for me, and this is real for you, and that there is hope.
Yes. I love that. I agree because, people, when they're wounded, it's kind of like you talk, once you get to the place so you got scars and there's some form of healing, because you can better help people. Because a lot of times people are thinking that they're the only one. And you just getting that diagnosis, I'm not quite sure. I don't know how prepared the doctor made you of your bipolar diagnosis, but it's good that your wife was proactive and did her due diligence and research, because it's good to have support. And you reading that article, because representation matters.
Absolutely.
You read another black man, because a lot of times we have to be strong. We have to be, just as a people, but then as a man too. But you read someone who looked like you, sounded like you, was having the same experience. He's on the other side sharing with the readers about, so you're doing the same thing.
Yes.
You're doing the same
Absolutely.
thing. You're doing the same thing. And I follow you on LinkedIn. And I love seeing your excitement and how you get people behind what it is that you're saying. So when we talk about men's mental health, it's often shrouded in silence and expectations. What's one narrative or norm about masculinity that you'd wish we'd reject altogether? And how do you keep or help men to keep from thinking that way and reframe that?
100%. So I'll start with me as a problem.
Okay, yes.
And so I'll frame this as in healthy masculinity.
Okay.
And then masculinity doesn't really help you at all.
All right.
Right. So once I was hanging out with my boys and we were at a barbecue spot, I got like one of those giant cups of Kool-Aid, just drinking, and had some ribs, and I start to choke.
Ooh.
And instead of inconveniencing them and asking for help, I walk away and I'm choking on my own. And I'm trying to talk and I can't. I'm like, I'm really choking right now. So I would rather have this moment where I drown in plain sight from some Kool-Aid and some ribs than ask them for help. And this happened last year.
Wow.
Actually, no, it happened earlier this year. So me, the mental health speaker, creating space for men to talk about mental health, going into companies, had my own challenge. And what I told myself was if I ask for help, they're not going to give it.
Yes.
Or if I ask for help, they're not going to do it in the way that I would do it. Or they're going to laugh at me. Or no one's probably qualified to do CPR.
You had this narrative in your head.
Completely, while I'm spiraling. And so what I tell men is that one of the biggest things that we don't do for ourselves, and the one thing that's keeping us from our healing, is being able to say, I don't have it all together.
Yes.
I don't have all the answers.
Yes.
And as men, we haven't been allowed to say that. Right? Growing up, there were times where I couldn't say I don't know.
Yeah.
Why don't you know? Go find an answer. Right? And so I think one thing that I really want us to start to do is ask for help, and then ask for it in small ways and start to rebuild that trust, because men don't talk about this, but we have a lot of hurts outside of how we were raised. It could be with friendships we used to have.
Yes.
One man told me that he didn't have any friendships anymore, but he was building new friendships in this new group that he was in.
Okay.
And we're about the same age, and I was like, wow, like you don't have any. So one thing I committed to doing was I said I want to build a space where men can be themselves and they can talk to each other. I said, but it's one thing that has to be true, and that's that I'm always honest about where I am.
I love that.
Where I can lead the cause,
Yeah.
but I can't be the master.
Yes.
I gotta be somebody that's with them.
Yes.
And so when I put myself in the circle and I'm sharing, it's like, wow, this has actually helped me with my relationship with my kids, with my wife. And now my wife's no longer my therapist because she ain't getting paid for it. Right?
Yes.
But the guys are
Yes.
listening to me talking.
Doing
I
it
look up and I
together.
say, are you guys ashamed of me? And they're like, that's all you got? I
You're
got worse
building
stories to tell you.
You're building community
Yes.
as you lead.
Yes. And it's helping me, it's fortifying me as a man to go,
Yes.
you just shared all this brokenness, and these people are still here to hold you up.
Yes.
And all they say is thank you.
Because in that moment, and I love that, and I thank you for sharing that just even early this year, when I saw your profound and heard you, that TEDx was phenomenal.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And I know what you do for people. But we're human, and we still work through this every day.
Yes.
And the fact that your masculinity had you thinking you needed to go over to the side, because
Yes.
maybe you be clown like, man, how you going to be choking on about, you know what I'm saying? But your airway was obstructed.
Yes.
And the danger of that could have been just unthinkable. So it's a learning. Everything I think that we endure or go through, Sinclair, really helps us. And sometimes it is for us, but a lot of times it's to help somebody else. So that was a narrative, and thank goodness for your transparency that you shared. But I love the fact that you have chosen to bring this group of men together. And although you are the leader, you're having positioned yourself in a leadership capacity because you want to be there in the midst with them. And that is definitely building community.
Yes.
And they trust you because you're not a peer, you're level with them.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they respect you still
100%.
because you're human.
Yeah, humility is the new way to lead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish a lot of more leaders knew that, because, you know, we, especially social media, that's a whole nother thing. Everything has to be curated, photos, this and that has to be just perfect. But people want to see you just as human.
Yes.
Yeah. So let me talk about your talk again. When your audience walks away from your talk, talking about your TEDx talk, I imagine that you want more than that was just inspiring.
Yeah.
What was the meaning and what did you really want and purpose for that talk?
Yeah, well, the whole idea for the talk was that we all should be mental health storytellers.
Yes.
And the idea is that even if you tell somebody that I was struggling the other day, that can be a breakthrough for them. The mom that tells it to a child, the grandpa that tells it to the grandson,
Yes.
the leader that tells it to the person reporting to them, the pastor that says it in front of the congregation.
Yeah.
It's really important for us to hear from our strong friends,
Yeah.
the people that we see as invincible, because it lets us know that we can now be more human.
Yes.
Right? And so when you can actually open up that conversation and start to talk that way, then we can start to get to some things. I'm actually able to tell you what some more of my mistakes were
Yes.
and get some feedback, but also get some support.
Yeah.
I'm able to support you, right? A lot of leaders, they're burnt out.
Yeah.
They don't get support.
Yeah.
As you get to the top, it gets
Yeah.
lonelier.
Yeah.
So who's there for them?
Yeah.
Right? So I really wanted to encourage people to have these self-help skills as well as to be more vulnerable
Yes.
with a word.
Yeah.
Not a story, just one word.
One word.
Right. And then my ultimate message is that grace is a space to be broken, unfinished, and still unfolding.
Repeat that. I love that.
Yeah, it was what I learned when I was going through my dark night of the soul, when I was going through all those troubles in my recovery story. It's that grace is a space to be broken, unfinished, and still unfolding.
Wow.
And I have different definitions of that.
Yes.
You know, I'm a man of faith, but I wanted something for everyone to be able to subscribe to.
Yes.
So that action step would be go and figure out one place in your life where you need some space to be broken, where you need some space to still be unfolding, to figuring things out, right? Going from single mom to having bonus kids, going from teacher to principal, going from the country to the city, going from COVID time to post-COVID time, and all that you've lost. Give yourself some space to not perform or achieve, but just to be, because that space is so powerful.
Yeah, just a being.
Yes.
And and we're talking about mental health issues, but we deal with a lot of people who have imposter syndrome because they have reached a certain level of success, but yet they're human, and everybody has things that they go through, and because they're experiencing things, they feel like it's failure, but it's not.
100%.
And giving people the ability and the gift to know it's okay.
Yes.
It's so powerful.
Yes.
It's so powerful. What I do know is that there is so much work that needs to be done. And I see the work that you're doing. And I know that there's an annual thing that you have for men.
Yes.
That if you speak on briefly, and then I want you to be able to share with people how they can connect with you.
100%. So each month we do a men's breakfast around mental health.
Okay.
And then we had our first annual summit this year. And then next year around Father's Day, Juneteenth weekend, we're going to have our first Father's Day conference.
That's
So
awesome.
bring them in, talk about
Yes.
mental health, but we're also going to play games, get haircuts, and just fellowship with each other.
All right.
Oh,
now.
yeah.
They're going to get the type right and all
That's
that.
it. That's it. And you can find me on LinkedIn or my website, sinclarityllc.com. Feel free to reach out anytime. We also have a newsletter that we send out once a week that's inspiring and lets you know what we're doing and gives you some education for you and your people.
Phenomenal. And I'm so glad that you took out time to come today, because there's so many barriers to healing, and it doesn't have to be.
100%.
It can be just as simple as asking, how are you today?
Yes.
On a scale of 1 to 5, how are you doing?
That's it.
Nobody's here meant to be invincible. We're all flesh and blood, and we all need work. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you.
And sharing your story and what it is you do. We're going to come back with a segment called The Main Question, Rooted in Awareness. We'll be back in a few minutes. Hi, I'm Stephanie Anderson, the Alopecia Advocate, speaker, author, and host of The Main Health Show. If you're living with alopecia, struggling with self-image, or simply yearning to feel seen, heard, and whole again, I wrote this book just for you. My newest book, 52-Week Daily Devotionals and Alopecia Affirmations, Cultivate Empowerment and Self-Love Every Day of the Year, is a transformational guide to help you reclaim your confidence, restore your faith, and rediscover your beauty inside and out. Each day delivers a heartfelt devotional rooted in spiritual truth, paired with a daily affirmation designed to uplift your spirit, challenge negative beliefs, and replace them with radical love for you. This isn't just a book. It's a healing companion, a daily practice, a declaration that you matter. Your reflection matters. Your journey matters. Get ready to walk in your worth, speak your life into your reflection, and start each day with divine confidence. It's time to love who you see in the mirror every single day. You're not alone in this journey. And this book, 52-week daily devotionals and alopecia affirmations, is your daily reminder that healing is possible and joy is your birthright. Let's walk in that together. And we're back in this segment of the Main Health Show we call The Main Question, Rooted in Awareness. And as the alopecia advocate, it's an opportunity for me to ask my guests a question of their choosing about alopecia. Thank you, Sinclair, for staying a little later and for answering this question for me. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Want to know about breaking stigmas? How can society better support individuals living with alopecia or hair loss? And what role do you think your profession plays in changing perceptions surrounding alopecia?
That's a great question. And so I like to define stigma for everyone as the false story we tell ourselves about something we don't quite understand.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And so for me, stigma is purposely working on reversing what that story is by educating yourself. And so one thing I learned was that there are actually several types of alopecia.
Yes.
I remember a young man when I was growing up who used to have some baldness in different spots on his head, and no one told me what was going on.
Yeah.
And so I think one way to break that stigma is to get beyond the silence, right? Ask questions, right? Do research on your own. We know there's so much that is available to us in this phone, but do it so that we can connect, not just be informed, but to be able to connect.
Yes.
I also love one of your affirmations that says you are empowered to create your own standard of beauty.
Yes.
And so I think about that, and I think that means that you are able to build the life that you want to live. You are able to have the people around you who reflect back to you how beautiful you are. And so I think being someone who can reflect that beauty, being someone who can reflect that love, but also being able to do the work of working against those negative messages that you came up with around what beauty standards are. Beauty for one person is different for another, but I know some people out there who've never been told they're beautiful. And so I like to reinforce it with my daughter.
I love it.
You are smart, you are intelligent, you are beautiful.
Yes.
I love you just the way you are, no matter what you're experiencing. And the way my work intersects with it is quite simple. It's the storytelling.
Yes.
We need to hear more narratives. We need to hear more people's stories of when they were struggling or when they triumphed, when they first experienced hair loss. The struggle of trying to figure out what's happening with this autoimmune situation going on. The struggle of not having all the answers. Is it the stress? Is it trauma? I don't know. I want to hear your story, and I want you, like one of my favorite authors, Hannah Brincher, says, I want you to come matter here. Because you do.
You matter.
You matter.
Wow.
Yeah.
And thank you. And you use even one of my affirmations.
Of
Thank
course.
you.
They're great.
Thank you so much again for today and for sharing your heart. And this is going to be all for this episode of the Main Health Show. Until next time, take care and be blessed. Bye-bye.